Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the exalted one, the worthy one, the supremely enlightened one. Arabata nikkamata yunjata buddha sasane donata machuno selang nadagarang vakunja Yoi masmin dhamma vinay appamatto vihesati pahaya yate sansara dukkha santang parissati. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Venerable members of the Mahasangha, nuns, friends in the Dhamma. Today, our second day of the annual monastic retreat in Meditation Society, West Virginia. In this moment, we are going to discuss one of the main subjects in Buddhism, which is Saddha or confidence. This is a very important teaching that the Buddha explained. The Buddha says very clearly, Saddha Mulika Sabbe Kusala Dhamma. Saddha is the foundation of all the wholesome activities. We start our spiritual journey with the confidence in what the Buddha taught. In this situation, we should understand the clear meaning of Saddha in Buddhism. Before we come to Buddhism, when we refer some discourses in Buddhism, we can see this Saddha can be seen before Buddha appeared in this world. When we refer Arya Pariyasana Sutta, Buddha says, before I attain enlightenment, Alarakalam also has Saddha or confidence. I also have Saddha. And also again Buddha says, before I attain enlightenment, Uddhagaramput also had Saddha. I also had Saddha. Before appearing the triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, Buddha had understood Saddha. Not only Saddha, Saddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. Saddha, energy, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. Buddha has explained in Arya Pariyasana Sutta what he practiced before he attained enlightenment. That is very important. But when it comes to the Buddha's message, it has a very special meaning. For an example, Buddha in his first sermon, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Buddha says, Pubbe anunusukesu dhammesu chakkumudaphadi jnanamudaphadi, so on. I understood, realized something that I had never heard before. In his first sermon, Buddha explained Jatupi dukkha, Jarapi dukkha, Vyadipi dukkha, so on. But we all know, before Buddha did his renunciation, he understood Jara, aging, Vyadi, sickness, death, when he was going to for plane and parks with the Channa, he realized Jati Jara Marana. But in his first sermon, Buddha says, I realized something that I had never heard. He understood very special thing. When we come to Buddhism, Buddha says, Saddha Molika Sabbe Kusala Dhamma, and Saddha Bijam, Saddha is seed. Saddha plays a very big role on the path of liberation in Buddhism. Here, we should understand in common meaning, everyone has Saddha. What is Saddha? What we do in our day-to-day life for peace, for happiness. What the thing that we have given the priority to in our day-to-day life. That is our Saddha. How many hours that we spend for a day for our happiness. That is our Saddha. Our Saddha depends on what we have heard. What we have heard depends on we have associated with. When we associate with someone, we listening to him, and also according to what we are listening to, we practice it, we follow it for our inner peace or happiness. In this situation, when we discuss the Buddha's message, by associating with the good friends, noble association, and also listening to what they say, we develop our knowledge and we develop our vision. According to our vision, we practice it. Not only according to our vision, but according to our understanding and confidence. That is also very important. When we come to the Buddha's message, there are very special qualities in the Dhamma, Sanditthiko, Akaliko. Sanditthika means visible results, Akalika immediately effective. When we do our day-to-day activities, we trust in that when we come to the Dhamma and also when we follow the Dhamma, we can see the results immediately. That is the very special characteristic of practicing Dhamma. It belongs to Saddha. And also, the more we associate with the good friends, the more we understand what the spiritual path, and also we dedicate our life to practice the Dhamma that helps us to develop our inner peace. Buddha's message is very clear. As we mentioned earlier, in one side, Buddha pointed out the way how we succeed in this immediate life and our next life, hereafter. On the other side, Buddha explained the path, how we overcome suffering completely. When we succeed in this life and hereafter in our samsaric circle, we should keep our mind pure and calm, reducing anger and craving. By practicing virtue, or especially practicing 5 precepts, we reduce our anger and craving. Even though we practice dana or generosity, if we don't practice sila, sometimes we may have many mistakes in our life. We have seen there are some people in this world, they practice generosity in the maximum level. But sometimes there are some problems in their life since they don't practice 5 precepts. They steal, they kill beings, they have some sexual misconduct. Because of their craving and anger, they have big mistakes in their lives, even though they are generous. But the main point of the samsaric circle, how we succeed the samsaric circle, we should spend a virtuous life. especially practicing the 5 precepts. That is very important. We trust in this reality, what the Buddha explained. There are many discourses that we can see. Buddha explained the benefits of practicing 5 precepts. He who practices 5 precepts gives the fearlessness to the world. Abhyandeti, Abhyandeti, Abhyapajandeti. This is one of the places that we are trusting in what the Buddha said. Not only that, with the understanding of the karmic law, we are always aware of our mind. What is that Buddha says? Manasache paduttena bhasativa karotiva. If we do something with the impure mind, dukkhan anveti, suffering follows us. The other thing, manasache pasannena bhasativa karotiva. If we do something with a pure mind, sukhan anveti, happiness follows us because of pure mind. This is the very first place that we are confident in what the Buddha explained. Not only we confident in that, we see the results by practicing this Dhamma. Not only sila or virtue that practice with the confidence in the Buddha's message, but we practice all the 3 meritorious deeds. Generosity, virtue, and meditation. In short, Dhanancha samacharyancha metta chittancha bhavi. Generosity, 5 precepts, and loving kindness meditation. We practice and maintain them and keep them in the highest level in our spiritual development. It means we are going on the path of happiness. Buddhism, in short, the way how we achieve the real happiness. Happiness is the main purpose of everyone. All the doctrines that the Buddha has explained focuses on happiness. That is why when we practice dana, Buddha says, Piti mudarang vindati data. He who has a generous heart gains a lot of happiness. When we are generous, our mind is so pure and calm, we are happy. Not only that, when we practice discipline or moral conduct, virtue, sila, we have confidence in our character and we have no fear, no doubt when we live in this society. We are honored, we are respected in the society because of our character. That helps us to develop our happiness. We can associate many people in this society happily, successfully, without fear and doubt, as the result of practicing loving kindness meditation. And also when we practice the next meritorious act, Bhavana or Samatha Bhavana, meditation, or especially Samatha meditation techniques, the concentration meditation techniques. There are 40 meditation techniques that we can see in Buddha's message for our inner peace. The main purpose of practicing Samatha Bhavana is to reduce our hindrances. 5 hindrances: sensual pleasure, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, skeptical doubts. These are the hindrances that we reduce for our inner peace. As the result of reducing these negativities from our mind, we gain the facts of jhana, dhyana, vitakka, vichara, and piti. Piti or rapture is one of the facts of jhana. That happiness is more important than all the happiness that we receive in the calm world, the sensual world. That is very important. we trust in this Buddha's message in our spiritual path, especially in the mundane level, we can develop our happiness up to the jhana level. On the other side, when we come to the spiritual path, the deliverance path, Nibbana Magga, based on mindfulness, when we practice this path, again we meet happiness. Why is it? In Bojjhanga, Sati, Dhamma Vicaya, Viriya, next Piti, Piti Sambojjhanga. There also we can see Piti. Not only that, again we can find Piti or rapture, very special place that when we attain the highest level of spirituality, as a Arahant, he can change the world. Actually, he doesn't go to change the external world. When he changes his perception, sanya, he can change all over the world. Appatikule patikula sanya viharati. When he receives some beautiful experience or positive experience, if he likes, he can change it up to impurity. And also, if he has some experience in impurity, he can change it to purity. As Buddha mentioned, patikula apatikula sanya viharati. Not only that, if he wants to change it up to neutral, he can do that also. They are reducing, they are overcoming. If he likes, he can come to neutral or upekha. This is the highest result of practicing this path. We are confident in this message. From the beginning, in the mundane level, dana or generosity, up to the highest level in mindfulness, we can practice this message in various ways according to our understanding and sacrifice, and especially confident. Here, the very first thing that we are confident in Buddha's message in the mundane level, how we receive a blissful life. For that, Buddha has explained 8 meritorious streams or punya-abhisanda. There are most powerful meritorious streams that Buddha has explained. Buddhan saranagato hoti, Dhamman saranagato hoti, Sanghan saranagato hoti, and practice in 5 precepts. These 8 things are the most important meritorious deeds that help us to develop our happiness. As the result of having these qualities, we are confident in that we never fall into hell. That is the highest benefit or result that we receive being confident in what the Buddha taught. And also, when we go to the next level in the deliverance path, we listen to the Four Noble Truths and we understand the Buddha's very special message, what the Buddha says. Here, we can see the gradual path in Buddha's message. Buddha's message is like the ocean. The ocean deepens gradually from the beach to the deeper water. Buddha's message also like that. When you refer the Avijja Sutta, Buddha says very first step of our spiritual path is that associating with the good friends or Kalyana Mitta Asraya. When we receive Kalyana Mitta, we pay our attention to what they say. Listen to Dhamma. Having the Dhamma is the second step of the spiritual path. When we listen to Dhamma with good attention, we have confidence. We are confident in what the Buddha taught. As the result of confidence, we start our spiritual journey. Then we develop our yoniso manasikara or wise consideration. When we have wise reflection or wise consideration, yoniso manasikara, we come to the next level, sati sampajanya, mindfulness and comprehension. When we have sati sampajanya, we come to the next level, indriya samvara, discipline in senses. As the result of having discipline in senses, we come to the next step, that Trivida Sucharita, the three disciplines in our speech, behavior, and mind. As the result of having three disciplines, we come to the next step, that Satara Satipatthana, fourfold mindfulness. As the result of having mindfulness, we come to the next step, that Satta Bojjhanga, 7 enlightenment factors. As the result of practicing 7 enlightenment factors, we are able to attain knowledge and liberation, Vidya Vimukti. On this path, we can see, before we receive Saddha, we have to listen to Dhamma, what the Buddha taught. Not only that, for that we should have good association who explains this message. And also here we directly come to the main topic in Buddhism, which is the Four Noble Truths. When Buddha explained his message, he followed the gradual path, Dana Kata, Sila Kata, Sagga Kata. But when Buddha met a very gifted person, Buddha directly explained the Samukhansika Desana, or the Four Noble Truths, or the dependent origination, that directly helps us to attain the Nibbana. When Buddha met 5 ascetic people, or Panchavagya Bhikkhu, or Bahya Daruchirya, or Pukusati, they were the gifted persons who, when Buddha met them, Buddha immediately read their mind, their spiritual faculties, especially their Panya wisdom, the faculty of wisdom. By using his psychic energy, such as Keto Pariyajnana, Asyanusaya Jnana, Indriya Paropariyatti Jnana. Using these special energies, Buddha read their mind, and also Buddha realized their mental situation, how much they have practiced the spiritual faculties in their sansaric journey. According to their wisdom, Buddha directly explained the path of deliverance, or Nibbana Magga. There, Buddha used the Four Noble Truths. Sometimes Buddha has used it in various ways. But when we discuss the Buddha's message, in the center point is that the Four Noble Truths. The foot of elephant, it is very big. All the feet of animals in the jungle can be included into the foot of elephant, like that. All the doctrines that relate to deliverance path can be summarized into one topic, which is the Four Noble Truths. Here, it is very important to understand the Pubbe Anunusutisu Dhammesu, the very special message and thing that that Buddha realized when he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, when he received the Samma Sambuddha. Here, when we refer the Dhammacakka Sutta, we can see the several things that belong to Dukkha Satya. Jatipi Dukkha, Jarapi Dukkha, so on. Finally, Buddha says, Sankitena Panchupadana Dukkha. In short, arising of five aggregates is the noble truth of suffering. And when we refer some other teachings of the Buddha, there is a very special explanation in Dukkha Satya, what the Buddha says. There Buddha says, in short, කායිකං දුක්ඛං චේතසික දුක්ඛං ඨපෙත්වා අවශේෂං dukkha satyං na dukkhaṃ. If there are anything besides physical suffering and mental suffering, that is the noble truth of suffering. That is not suffering. Again, Buddha says, කායිකං දුක්ඛං චේතසික දුක්ඛං dukkhaṃ dukkha satyං. Physical suffering and mental suffering are the suffering and the noble truth of suffering as well. Sometimes it is very difficult to understand, but again and again we have to refer this reference. That is very important. That is the main point of Buddhism. If there are anything besides physical suffering and mental suffering, that is the noble truth of suffering. It means our very first experience. When we see something, when we hear something, when we smell something, when we taste something, very first experience is neither happy or unhappy. That is neutral. But after we receive the first experience, because of our ignorance, we again come to the world, we think that still there is something in the outside world. That depends on our ignorance. Very first experience is very instant. It arises and ceases immediately. After it ceases, we take it again with our ignorance. Then we think that there is something outside. Now we are in the corner of the arising or samudayanta. Even though it has already ceased, we still think that there is something outside world. That is the cause of suffering. That is the samudaya satya. That belongs to the Patisampada circle, the circle of the dependent origination. And also, again Buddha says, physical suffering and mental suffering are the suffering and the noble truth of suffering. If we have some kind of sufferings at this moment, that is our fault. But it has a connection with the very first experience. We create this suffering based on our first experience. But if we are very aware, mindful and wise in the first experience, we don't depend on the outside world. But because of our non-mindfulness and ignorance, we are depending on the outside world. It means we are controlled by the outside world. Here, it is very important to understand the meaning of impermanence or anicca. Buddha says, Sabbe sankhara anicca, all conditioned things are impermanent. What is the meaning of impermanence? When someone asks us, Bhante, what is impermanence? We usually change there is something which is always continuously changing. Changing is not the complete meaning of anicca. Bodhisattva realized viparinama before he attained enlightenment. Jara, marana, jati. These are the things belong to viparinama or changing. But anicca or impermanence has a very deep meaning, which is that according to reference in Buddhism, ahutva sambhutam hutvana bhavisati. Not being occurred comes to occurrence, being occurred will not go to occurrence. Previous experience as it is doesn't come to the present. The present experience will not go to next thought or next experience. But the previous experience influences the present moment, and also the present moment influences the next moment. But nothing goes from moment to moment permanently. Not being occurred comes to occurrence. Ahutva sambhutam. Hutvana bhavisati. Then it arises again. This is the highest meaning of impermanence or anicca. With this understanding, again, we go to the first truth of the noble truth of suffering. Dukkha satya, the noble truth of suffering. We are confident in this Buddha's message, but there is a very important thing. We start our spiritual journey with confidence, but end of this journey, the Saddha is over. Asaddho akatanyo. That is a very important thing. Arahanta is described as asaddho akatanyo. He has overcome confidence since he has his own experience. For an example, one day, Chitta Gahapati came to the Nigantanatha Buddha. Nigantanatha Buddha was the teacher of the Chitta Gahapati. One day, Chitta Gahapati came to the Nigantanatha Buddha. Then he asked a very interesting question. Nigantanatha Buddha asked him, Chitta Gahapati, my friend Chitta, do you believe the second jhana? Avitakka, avichara, pedijan, samadhijan, dutiyajnana. Do you believe it? This Chitta Gahapati is not a normal person. He is an anagami person with jhanas. Then Chitta Gahapati says, Bhante. He announced his teacher, previous teacher, Bhante. Bhante, sir, I don't believe second jhana. I don't believe avitakka, avichara, samadhijam, piti, sukhan, dutiya jhana. I don't believe it. What the Buddha taught. Then Nigantanatha Buddha was so happy. Chitta Gahapati, one of the main disciples of the Buddha, doesn't believe Buddha's second jhana. He was so proud. Then Chitta Gahapati asks, Bhante, do you believe? What is the most important thing? Believing or experiencing? What is the better thing? Believing or experiencing? I don't need to believe second jhana. I have experience in the second jhana. Already I have the second jhana. I don't have Saddha in second jhana. That is the thing of the message of the Buddha. Until we go to the destination, we should have the confidence. But when we reach the destination, no more Saddha, no more confidence. That is our own experience. That is why Dhamma means Pachattam Vedita Bhovinyohi. This Dhamma is to be realized by the wise, by his own mind, own understanding. Here, Arahanthood also like that. Dhamma also like that. We start our spiritual journey with confidence. Without confidence, we don't start this journey. But when we go to the higher levels, step by step, our confidence in some levels is over little by little. And also, very important thing, at the beginning, we should be confident. If someone doubts the Dharma path, the path of Dhamma in the beginning, actually, he is unable to go to the destination. First, we need to believe it. We need to trust in it. That is very important. When we see this message, especially the noble truth of suffering, dukkha satya. Dukkha satya means the very first experience, which is neither pleasant nor unpleasant. That first experience, it should not be overcome. It should be realized. It should be understood. The very first experience, when we see something, when we hear something, we don't need to move the forms or we don't need to close our senses. The very first experience, we receive the results of our previous good karma sometimes. In Buddha's time, there were some ascetic people. They advised their disciples, such as when we refer Indriya Bhavana Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. There are Parasarya, the ascetic person in the another tradition. He advises his disciples how they discipline their disciples. Don't look at anything, don't hear anything. That is their path of liberation. Buddha questioned them. If the deliverance or the emancipation or nibbana is close in senses and not experienced in the world, then the persons by born who are blind and deaf, they should be the ascetic people, they should be the arahants. Even though we close our eyes or ears, we can't reduce our defilements. They went to reduce the very first experience. They are trying to overcome the very first experience. Buddha never advises us to overcome the very first experience. The very first experience is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, but it is very instant. And also, we are unable to recognize in the very first experience. That is why Dhamma says, Na panchahi vinyanehi kinti dhammam pativijanati anyatra abhinpatamatta. We are unable to recognize anything through our five consciousnesses. Anyatra abhinpatamatta, just contact. We usually say that I recognize something through my eye consciousness, nose consciousness, ear consciousness. We usually say it, but when we go to the deeper level, we recognize everything through our mind consciousness. Not only that, when we understand something through our mind consciousness, the very first experience has already ceased. This is the place where we are confident in what the Buddha taught. Saddha ati tathagatassa bodhi. Here is the place where we should have Saddha. When we see something, we recognize everything through our mind consciousness. At that moment, our eye has ceased, form has ceased, eye consciousness has ceased. For an example, when we eat something, having something in a plate, when we eat something, we think that the taste comes from the food which is in the plate. Looking at the food in the plate, we are tasting something. But food is here. Food is inside. But we are looking at the food in the plate. When we taste something, we immediately look at the plate. We never think that now I am tasting something which is in the mouth. Our all experiences are also like that. This is like the food which is in the plate. When we recognize something, you are a monk, you are a reverend son. When we recognize something, we recognize everything through our mind consciousness. And also, we understand if suffering arises, the cause of ignorance. Because of not knowing of this reality, we depend on outside. We think when we experience something, there is something outside world. When we remember something, why lust or anger arises? We think that there is something outside world what I have experienced with. That is why we are suffering. Buddha says suffering completely comes to the person who is unwise. Suffering never comes to the person who is wise and mindful. And also, first, we should need to listen to this message from a person, and also then we know the path. The path is mindfulness. Ekaino ayam bhikkhave maggo sattanam visuddhya. The only path for the purification of beings. What is purification? That is not our physical purification. That is our mental purification. We purify our mind from especially ignorance or delusion. If we want to purify our mind, first we should know this message according to what the Buddha taught. Then we should follow the practice in the maximum level, which is mindfulness. When we are mindful at the moment, we have used some ministers in our senses. When we see something, we immediately understand, now I am reading my own mind. When we smell something, when we hear something, when we taste something, we immediately understand, I am reading my own mind. Here, if you want to overcome suffering from the outside world, we should practice mindfulness. We should maintain our mindfulness in the maximum level in the present moment. This is the place where we are confident in. The very first thing is how the first truth arises and how suffering arises, the second truth, samudaya satya. And if we want to overcome the samudaya satya, we have to overcome ignorance. Avidyayatve vasya viraga nirodha sankhara nirodho so. That is nirodha satya. In order to achieve the nirodha satya or emancipation, we have to practice what the Buddha taught. In short, mindfulness. Again, Buddha says samatha and vipassana. Again, Buddha says in another place, sila samadhi panya. Sometimes Buddha says the Noble Eightfold Path. These are the qualities or doctrines that we have to practice to reach this destination. And we have faith in. When we are ignorant, we have suffering since we are controlled by the outside world. The one who can make you angry will become your master. You are a servant of him since you are controlled by him. The one who can make you angry will become your master. It means we are a servant of him. since we are controlled by them because of our ignorance. If someone make you lustful, will become your master. You are a servant of him or her, since we are controlled by them. The one who can make you ignorant will become your master. You are a servant of him or her. For the freedom, we have to practice mindfulness with this understanding. And I think most of us know this doctrine, but the very important thing, the highest meaning of Saddha is that we should trust in that when we understand this message and when we practice this Dhamma, we can see the visible results. We can get it akalika as akalika, immediately effective. If we have this confidence, we give the priority to practice this Dhamma. If we don't give the priority to practice this Dhamma, it means we have no Saddha in the average level. That is why our agenda has a lot of things. If we have given the priority to practice this message, it means we are trusting the Buddha's message in the highest level. We know that very well. This is the only path for the getting rid of suffering. Ekayanuan dekemako sattana visuddhya soka paridavana samatikamaya dukkha dohana sananattangamaya nyaya sadigamaya nibbana sasatkiriyaya. The only path for the getting rid of suffering, sorrow, lamentation, which is mindfulness. But the very important thing, sammaditthi puryajavan, right understanding is the forerunner. That is first. Vision is first, then mission. Vision is how suffering arises and how suffering ceases. That is vision. What is the mission? Mission means what we practice for reaching this destination. In short, mindfulness or concentration and insight meditation for 3 disciplines with details the Noble Eightfold Path. Then, with this understanding, we dedicate our entire life to understand this message and to practice this message. We are confident in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. What is the Buddha? Buddha means we trust in what the Buddha realized. Saddha di Tathagatassa Bodhi, not the trusting in Buddha's physical body. Trusting in what the Buddha realized. What is Dhamma? Dhamma also the thing what Buddha realized. What is the Sangha? Sangha means Supatipanno, Ujupatipanno, Nyayapatipanno, Samikipatipanno. Sangha is alive by practicing Dhamma. And also when someone meets one thing, he is confident in the triple gem. For an example, Venerable Sariputta met Venerable Assaji. When he met Venerable Assaji, he said, your senses are very pleasant, your behavior is very calm. If you know something, let me know, please. And through associating the good friend, he listened to Dhamma. Then he asked, who is your teacher? Then he went to the Buddha, finding the spiritual teacher. Sometimes, such as Pokusati, first he listened to Dhamma. He didn't know that the Buddha who is preaching Dhamma. Pokusati listening to Dhamma from the Buddha, and he understood the Dhamma. Immediately he said that you are the person whom I am coming to find. You are my teacher. I was ordained in the name of you. You are the teacher. And also sometimes some people first came to the Buddha, such as Rattapala. Rattapala first came to the Buddha and listening to Dhamma. He was so happy with listening to Dhamma, and he saw the Saddha, and also he said that Bhante, this is a very valuable sublime message. In the lay life, it is difficult to complete this message successfully. Therefore, I decided to be a monk. Please enter me to the dispensation of yours. These three things are interrelated: the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Sometimes we start this journey with the Buddha, sometimes with the Dhamma, sometimes with the Sangha or a noble association. But these three things are very interrelated. That is very important. As the result of this confidence, our heart is filled in the triple gem. We are inspired with the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. Our entire life is the triple gem, since we are completely confident in the Buddha's message and also the followers who follow this message. And also we give the priority to practice this Dhamma in the maximum level. In our day-to-day life, we mostly think the triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. On the other side, we are associated with the Dhamma. What is the Dhamma? The Noble Eightfold Path. We manage everything according to the Noble Eightfold Path. When we speak something, it belongs to Samma Vaca, right speech. When we behave, we do it according to Samma Kamman, right action. When we earn something, we do everything according to Samma Ajiva, right livelihood. When we have effort, we follow Samma Vayama, not to do evil and practice good deeds. Samma Vayama, right effort. When we have intention or thoughts, we do everything according to Samma Sankappa, right intention. When we concentrate our mind, always we start Sammaditi. And also when we concentrate our mind, we practice it according to what we know. And also when mind gains concentration, Samahito bhikkhave bhikkhu yatha bhutam pajanati. When mind gains concentration, we reflect on the reality, world reality as it is, anicca, dukkha, anatta. Then we can see day by day we are overcoming suffering. We are on the path of liberation. When we are confident in the Buddha's message, our energy gradually increases. When Saddha or confidence in Buddha's message arises, immediately energy comes to our life. That energy goes into our life through our skin, through our skeleton. It goes to our inside body. Saddha virya and sati confidence, sati mindfulness, and concentration samadhi, and panya wisdom. These 5 things are the 5 spiritual faculties. With this understanding and confidence in one side, our world is the triple gem. On the other side, our practice, the Noble Eightfold Path. Finally, we can conclude everything into mindfulness in breathing. Mindful breathing. So Sattva Pasasati we started. Finally we go to Aniccanupassi Viharati Asasi Samiti Sikkati. Aniccanupassi Viharati Pasasi Samiti Sikkati. Finally, Patinissagganupassi Asasi Samiti Sikkati. Pasasi Samiti Sikkati. We see every moment if something arises which is five aggregate. Which something ceases, that is five aggregates. Nothing else. By concentrating our mind in the breathing in and out, when mind gains concentration, we reflect on impermanence, dissatisfactory, and selflessness. This is the result of Saddha. It doesn't mean that we don't do other things, we do only breathing meditation. It doesn't sound, but we give the priority to practice our spiritual development. We don't give the priority to anything. We keep the highest level in our spiritual life. We give the priority to practice, which is Samatha and Vipassana. We understand very well. Buddha says, according to Abhinya Sutta, which comes in Anguttara Nikaya, Buddha says, Atti Bhikkave Dhamma Abhinya Parinyeya Panchupadanakkhandha. As a wise person, the highest things that we have to understand is that five aggregates. Every moment, five aggregates arise and cease. This is the highest understanding. Atti Bhikkave Dhamma Abhinya Pahatamba. As a wise person, the highest things that we have to overcome are that avidya bhavatanha, ignorance and clinging to the world. These are the things that we have to overcome. Atti bhikkhave dhamma abhinya satchikatamba. There are something which should be realized by the wise, vidya, vimukti, knowledge and liberation. Knowledge means the Four Noble Truths. Liberation means free from the world, free from suffering. Atti bhikkhave dhamma abhinya bhavetamba. The highest quality is that we can practice to overcome suffering are that samathocha vipassanacha. Tranquility and insight meditation. We start our spiritual journey listening to Dhamma. Very first quality of the spiritual path is that susu satiyo suvacha, active listening, being gently spoken. Saddha jato upasankamati. If a person is confident in his teacher, he visits the teacher. Upasankamitva pairupasati. When he goes to the teacher, he associates with him. And pairupasanto sotam odahati. Associating with him, he pays his attention, what he says. Sotam odahati, ohita soto dhamman sunati, sutva dhamman dhareti. When he learns Dhamma, he remembers it. Little by little, he go forward until attain liberation. According to Kitagiri and Chanki Sutta, Buddha has explained the gradual path of our spiritual life. From Saddha, we can explain this spiritual path. And as the result of having confidence in the Buddha's message, Buddha's understanding, his great discovery, we understand how suffering arises and ceases. Whenever we are ignorant, when we are unmindful, we immediately depend on outside world. We think that still there is something in the world. It doesn't sound that there is no material world in the world. Actually, there is a material world which consists with four fundamental elements: earth element, water element, fire element, and air element. But that experience is only in the first step, which is the vipaka level. When we understand it, the very first experience has what this is. This is the place we are confident in, and also we keep our mind in mindfulness. Even though we have this understanding, if we are not mindful, we have faults. We have mistakes in our life since we are controlled by the outside world. This is the real freedom, emancipation, liberation, or having the results of the practice of the Dhamma. I explained Saddha in short. If you have any question, you can ask. And Saddha is a seed, Saddha Bijam. Saddha Balan, Saddha is a strength or power. Saddha Indriya, Saddha is a spiritual faculty. And Saddha Molika Sabbepi Kusala Dhamma. Saddha is the foundation of all wholesome activities. And Saddha, or confidence in Buddha's enlightenment, plays a very big role. We start our spiritual journey with Saddha, but the very special thing, when we reach the destination with the Pachattang Vedita Bovinyohi, when we realize Dhamma by our own understanding, the Saddha or confidence is over. Then it says, Asaddho Akatanyo. The Arahant person doesn't need to believe or trust or confident in anything, since that is his own experience. But he has the characteristic of Saddha, which is Sampasadana Lakhana, the characteristic of being pleasant to the Buddha, who explained his message. Already he has that confidence. That confidence day by day may go forward. But he doesn't need to anything to be confident in, since now everything is his own experience. Even Buddha also come and say something. Even Buddha doesn't change him. When Buddha's time, sometimes Buddha preached Dhamma someone, and immediately, at the moment that person attains Sotapanna, Buddha went. Then Mara, he saw this instant. He made the appearance of the Buddha. He changed his appearance like the Buddha. He appeared that person and he said that, my dear friend, I had some mistake. What I said that everything is impermanent? No, there is something which is permanent. I told that something which is dukkha. No, there is something suffering, something happiness. I told you everything is anatta or selfless. No, there are something which is self. Like the Buddha, he explained these things. That person has already came to the stream entry, Sotapanna. That person knew that this is not the real Buddha. He asked, Are you the Maharan? You are not the Buddha. Buddha never says like that. He rejected his message. This is the nature of our own experience. Okay, friends in the Dhamma, Venerable says, we discuss the Buddha's message as the topic of confidence or Saddha. As the result of this confidence, we understand how suffering arises and ceases, and also we give the priority to practice to overcome this suffering, especially by practicing mindfulness. Very important breathing meditation. If we can manage our spiritual life, giving the priority to practicing breathing meditation, that is very important. Buddha says, if we follow one thing, if we practice one thing, other four things gradually increase. When those four things develop, other seven things gradually increase. When these seven things increase, we achieve other two things. What is the one thing? Which is mindful breathing. When we practice mindful breathing or anapanasati bhavana, fourfold mindfulnesses gradually develop. When fourfold mindfulnesses gradually develop, seven enlightenment factors gradually develop. As the result of developing the seven enlightenment factors, we are able to achieve Vijja Vimukti, knowledge and liberation, according to Ananda Sutta and Anapanasati Sutta. Okay, thank you so much for your good attention in the devotion to the Triple Gem. By the power of acquiring positive thoughts, listening to Dhamma, we develop our knowledge in Dhamma, and by the power of this spirituality, may all your spiritual goals, wishes meet with success, and finally, may all of us attain the supreme bliss of liberation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dukkam pantaca nirdukkha, bhayam pantaca nirbhaya, sokam pantaca nisoka, untu sabbe pipanino. All the beings be well, happy and peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.